For those of you who don't know me, my name is Abda Khan. I am actually a solicitor by profession. I've worked in the legal industry for 26 and a half, coming up 2 years now, and I've run my own law firm for 21 years plus. I'm also, in addition, I do some mentoring. I'm a Lloyds Bank Women in the Future ambassador. I'm also a trustee for Birmingham Solihull Women's Aid. Around 4 or 5 years ago, I took the unusual step of becoming, or trying to become, and did become a published writer. So you might think, why did she leave this, I haven't left the profession yet, but why did she kind of go from law to writing? Well, it's a funny sort of a journey. I didn't have any creative writing background or training, and I took the decision to start writing because of what I saw as a complete lack of contemporary British fiction that dealt with some of the issues that affect my community, our communities, whether they're Muslim, BME or Asian. The problems that I had seen in the community that I'd grown up, in my own family, within my wider circle, and where I had worked. There was a series of events that kind of triggered my decision to start writing. There'd been some high-profile sort of honor abuse cases, and then I had a client come into my office about a matrimonial issue, and I started taking instructions like I would normally do. But when we got below the surface, I unearthed a whole catalogue of abuse. She had been raped in her early teens. When she'd gone to her family for help, they'd kind of swept it under the carpet, kind of blamed her, ostracised her. As soon as she was old enough, she'd been forced into a marriage she didn't want, and then, so on and so forth, had children. And now she sat in my office in her 40s, crying because finally she had found the courage to get a divorce. And that got me thinking. I thought, after she'd left, and obviously after I started the work, it got me thinking about when was the last time I actually picked up a book that had a character like this in it. And I couldn't remember if I'd ever picked up a British book with a character like that in it. I went into my local bookshop, I couldn't find one. I went online, couldn't find one. So I thought, you know what, if nobody else is writing about these issues, I'm going to write about them. It was as simple as that, that's what I decided. So before I go into my writing, the title of my talk is The Need for More British Muslim Voices in Contemporary British Fiction. So what is the problem, you're probably thinking? Why is there a problem? So I'm going to do just a few facts and figures, I won't bore you too much, but the 2011 census, the last census we had, shows that the population of England and Wales will command a 14% ethnic minority of BME population. And BME communities are expected to make up 30% of the population by 2050. So we are a big community, we're a growing community. And the most recent figures from the Office for National Statistics show there are 3 million Muslims in Britain. However, the 2012 employment census found that BME representation in creative industries, now creative I mean across the board creative industries, is only 5.4%. Okay, so I couldn't find any specific figures for Muslims, but as ethnic minorities, we are hopelessly underrepresented in creative industries, including publishing. The Writing for Future report in 2015 found that only 47% of BME writers have an agent for their literary debut, compared to 64% of white authors. And that pattern continues even after they become published. They're still less represented. Pair that with a report in 2016 published by the Women and Qualities Committee, which found that British Muslim women are the most economically and socially disadvantaged group in British society. And that's a fact. It's borne out by research. What the report said is that they face a triple penalty of gender, colour and faith. And they're particularly disadvantaged within the community, and within, on their streets and in their places of work. So the University of Bristol did some research which found that British Muslim women are 70% more likely to be unemployed than their white Christian counterparts, even when they have the same educational skills and qualifications. That's a massive figure. And a report by the Young Foundation, which is what I found when I tried to go into publishing, the report by the Young Foundation found that Muslim women have the same barriers as all other women when it comes to employment and so forth, such as gender inequality, childcare issues. But in addition, British Muslim women also face the extra challenges, including discrimination based on clothing and faith. Okay, so these are all big factors that play into your chances out there socially and economically. So, if we can just bear those figures in mind, I'm going to start my journey towards publication. And to start my journey towards publication, I have to go right back to when I was a little girl. Okay? When I was a little girl, what I heard was, good Muslim girls don't do this, and good Pakistani girls don't carry on their education. That's the response I got from my family when I wanted to carry on an education. Perhaps you should think about doing something else, like working in a library or typing, was the response from my careers advisor when I dared to express the wish to go to university and study law. Girls like you don't go to university, do they? She added. Girls like me. I'm probably maybe a bit older than I look, but I'm 50 this year, so we're talking quite a few years ago. Girls like me is all I heard. Girls like me. Girls like me, 7th of 8 kids born to poor immigrant parents who came from Pakistan in the 60s. Girls like me who were brought up in a very strict traditional Pakistani family were told, always told they couldn't do stuff. Sports, music, anything creative. You can't do that. Do you know what? I wasn't having any of it. So, I fought those patriarchal and cultural norms. I, with the help of my amazing mom, was the first child, and girl at that, to carry on past school age, go on and do my A-levels. Sadly, my mom passed away just months before my A-level exams. Somehow, through that tragedy, it carried on, got to university, got my degree, qualified as a solicitor, then went on to set my own practice, even though I was 8.5 months pregnant. I brought up 5 kids, I managed my family, all my commitments, and I thought, hooray, girls like me can. That is, until I got to my mid-40s and decided I wanted to publish a book. And that old girls like you can't. I wrote Stained because of all the problems that I'd seen around me, problems that I'd been affected by, and I thought, you know what, nobody else is writing about these issues. I think I'm going to. Stained is a story of a young British Pakistani girl, Muslim girl, an 18-year-old who is raped by a trusted friend of the family, who then uses the concept of honour to ensure that his victim doesn't speak out against him. And the story follows the journey of this young girl. It's a coming-of-age story as well, young woman, the barriers that she faces, the troubles that she has to go to hide this, what she sees as a stain on her character. It follows her trials and tribulations as she approaches womanhood and how she deals with this issue of the sexual abuse that she encountered and how she tries to prevent the family honour from being tarnished. My novel was rejected by every literary agent and small publisher in this country. I was told, these are real quotes from, see, a lot of people don't get rejections at all, or they don't get very nice rejections. I actually got some nice rejections, so I'm quite proud of that. I got some nice rejections. I was told my book was really interesting, well written, it's an accomplished story. However, I was told that by the literary agents that they were not sufficiently confident about placing it with a publisher. They didn't feel they would be able to find publishers for this book. And the small press said that they didn't think there was a market for it. One of them even commented that they couldn't publish it for commercial reasons, no matter how worthy it was. Okay, so a story about a young British Muslim woman set in Britain, a country with over 3 million Muslims, wasn't relevant enough to be published, let alone the need from readers from outside of that community or culture to get a chance to gain an insight into the concept of honour and how that affects a young woman. So once again, I was being told that I couldn't do something. Women like me, who wrote about women like me, were being told that they couldn't get their work published. I felt as though women like me and their stories didn't matter. Well, at least not to literary agents and the publishers. And quite frankly, to be honest with you, me and my stories don't really matter to them. That's the truth. It's what makes commercial sense in their eyes, the way they see it through their lens. There are always exceptions to this rule. If you're already famous and you're Muslim, you will get your book published. But if you're not, it's very difficult. And to be honest with you, if you're not white and middle class, or your writing isn't commercially mainstream, then your chances of being published in the UK are quite slim. But guess what? I wasn't any of that either. I wasn't having any of that either. So I found a niche publisher in America, actually, who published the novel in 2016. And despite the rejection, do you know what? And it is available worldwide on Amazon. It has been dubbed the contemporary Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Booklist in the US, which is a huge compliment. And it went on to receive recognition in 2 national awards here in Britain as well. But more importantly, much more importantly than that, much more importantly, I have been contacted by many women who have suffered sexual violence and honour abuse, and they have thanked me for writing the story. They have shared their own stories with me. They have told me they have found the story very empowering, because it is quite a feminist, empowering message in the story at the end of it. And you know what? You'll be surprised that some have even contacted me and said they're going to go to the police and report their rapes as a direct result of reading this book. And that, to me, is more an accomplishment than a Man Booker Prize, to be honest with you. If I've changed somebody's life because of this book, job done. So, and you know, this wasn't just Muslim women, this is cross-cultural. I'll never forget, I was speaking at a literary festival a couple of years ago, and the director of the literary festival came up to me afterwards and said, do you know what, I have to speak to you about a friend of mine who confided in me about something as a result of your book. So this woman was now in her 50s. She told the festival director, who was my friend, she told him that reading this book gave her the power to actually talk about something that she'd buried for a long time. She was a white Christian woman. She was a daughter of a vicar. And when she was 14 years old, she'd been raped by her brother. And she had been told by her mum and dad that she couldn't tell anybody, and she must think about the position of her father in the church. So it's a very similar concept, isn't it? It's a very similar concept. We just think we own this because it's in our communities, but actually, this is the power of writing. It transcends cultures, it transcends boundaries, it transcends nationalities, it transcends race, colour, everything. You can relate to a book, it doesn't matter what community it's written for or in, you can still relate to it if there's something in that book that touches a core of you. So after staying, soon enough, I started writing my next novel, which is this one, Razia. So Razia is due to be published in July this year. It's a dramatic, I'm so proud of this book, I really am, and I know it hasn't been published yet, but I am really proud of this book. So it's a really dramatic story that focuses on the plight of a modern day slave, and it's a story of one British female Muslim lawyer's fight for justice for this particular slave. So I started writing this book, after long days at the office, seeing to my family's needs. I wrote for hours on end, late into the night, and after a year I finished this book. But because of my previous experiences, I kept me proud of, albeit in its raw form, obviously it's gone through 3 edits now, but I produced a book I was really proud of. But something just wouldn't let me send it out. I kept holding back from sending it out. Then I came across a publisher called Unbound. And Unbound is a crowdfunding publisher. And I decided to go down the path of crowdfunding this novel. Because of what had happened last time, I thought, you know what, if people want to read this book, they will back it. And they did. I had to crowdfund quite a large sum to get this book published. And I did. And crowdfunding is one of the hardest things that I have ever done. But I'm so glad I did it. I really am, because it's given me validation. It's given me the confidence to know that actually there are people out there who do want to read stories like this, who do want to read about issues like this, who do want to see characters and themes like this being portrayed in British fiction, because people everybody matters. Everybody who lives in this community and society matters, and everybody deserves to be represented in fiction. And I'm also really happy to get a story out there that deals with some of the most pressing issues of our time, and that is modern slavery and human trafficking. These are big issues, locally, nationally and globally. And I've had a lot of, before it's not even been published, I've had a lot of interest in this novel already. because hardly any novelists have undertaken the sort of research that I've undertaken to write this novel. I've had interest from film producers and universities, all wanting to see my research, just to see, what I found when carrying out this research. And I hope that by writing this novel, and when it gets published, I hope that not only that the novel does well, because I've worked so hard to get here, I worked incredibly hard, but also I hope genuinely that, as I did with the previous novel, I hope that it will help to raise awareness about the issues that are covered in that novel. Not only modern slavery and human trafficking, but there is honour abuse in there. And there's also Farah, who's the lawyer. She's 30 and she's under pressure to marry. And it looks at that. It looks at what it's like for a British Muslim woman in London today. Struggling with that concept of time running out. The family kind of pressure to be married by a certain age and then to have children by a certain age, to have a life, if you like. So it looks at lots of different issues. It looks at corruption and bribery and all that kind of stuff that goes with the very shady area of slavery. But it also looks at something, a particular type of slavery called bonded slavery, which I'm not sure if many of you know much about, but it's a generational form of slavery, predominantly found in South Asia, in countries like India and Pakistan. And some of the book is set just outside Lahore in a brick kiln, which is where the girl Razia originally comes from, and she's from a family of bonded slaves who work on this brick kiln. So I would say that in conclusion, I would say that it is vitally important that British Muslim voices are reflected in the fiction that we see out there today, in all creative industries in fact, but obviously because my background is fiction, I kind of am focusing on that. Not only will these voices help raise the profile of certain issues, but I think they also help promote cross-cultural and interfaith harmony and dialogue. They genuinely do. They give a sense of identity. I think when Muslim voices in fiction will allow readers from the author's own community to feel a sense of belonging. It is really important that sometimes we do pick up a book and we see a character in there that is like us. There's stuff in the book about, about cultural quirkisms that we all, we have, that's something that you can relate to, issues and themes and family problems. It's important that we actually pick up books that we can see that they reflect us. And I think having diverse voices in fiction also allows people from outside that community to really step into another culture or religion that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. If you don't interact with Muslims, or if you don't interact with Asians or people from a black or other ethnic minority community, it might be your only way of stepping into that culture and actually really finding out what it's like to be part of that culture, what it's like to be part of that story, that narrative. I think we all enjoy good fiction, wherever it's set. And I think that reading about different cultures, different themes and different characters will foster and enhance values such as understanding and empathy, open-mindedness and peace generally. And I think in today's climate of fear and racism and Islamophobia, I think that can only be a good thing. So I hope you've enjoyed my little journey into fiction and where I am right now. Thank you.